Kenyan people have been struggling for a long time. You know, when Kenya got independence, it was a multi-party system, and it was a parliamentary also system of government. We had two political parties. But over the period, the opposition party, KADU, disbanded and joined KANU. But then in 1966, an opposition party was formed, KPU. KPU again was banned in 1969. So from 1969, Kenya had a de facto one-party system or dictatorship. That went on until 1982. Of course, in that period of time, several people tried to form political parties, but they were not allowed. And we intended to form another one in 1982. But in order to prevent that from happening, an amendment was removed in Parliament to create what was known as Section 2A, which made Kenya now a de jure single-party dictatorship. From that time onwards, of course, there was other developments which were basically eroding people's rights in the system. In 1988, they came up with what they called direct democracy, 1988 elections, which was called the Mulolongo system, where people were supposed to, in preliminary elections, people would go and would queue behind candidates. Then the candidates, the delegate would be counted, and anybody who got more than 50% of the votes would be declared automatically elected without having to go to the polls for balloting. This Mulolongo system was abused seriously, and it caused quite a lot of dissension. A number of people who were not wanted by the system were rigged out in 1988. But that actually, I just wanted to go back to that after the amendment of 1982, that made the country a single-party dictatorship. Kenyans were now left without any option. And that's when there was the coup attempt of 1982, which resulted in a lot of repressions at that time, and also a number of people had been detained, some of them before and others after. There were detentions without trial. Several people were detained, people like Maina Kinyati, Koigwa Mwere, Joja Nyona, William Tunga, Katama Mkangi, several of them had been detained. A number of them from University of Nairobi, like Mukaru Nganga, Professor Edward Oyugi, and so on. I want to say that the political system itself had become very repressive indeed. So after the elections of 1988, come now 1980, the people had had enough. And one of those people who had been rigged, or some of those who had been rigged, was late Kenneth Matiba and Charles Rubia. Now in 1988, now in May 1990, to be exact, I think it was 2nd of May 1990, Kenneth Matiba and Charles Rubia issued a they addressed a press conference in which they said that Kenya was now ripe for multipartyism, and that they wanted to ask the Kenyans to go and express themselves, see if they want multipartyism or they don't want multipartyism. And they proposed a rally at Kamkinji grounds, the historic Kamkinji grounds, to be held on the 7th of July. 7th of July, this is 1990. So after that press conference, there was, of course, an orchestration of condemnation from the system. They were being, these were tribalists, anarchists, who want to create chaos in the country. Kenyans do not want multipartyism. Kenyans are against multipartyism and so on. So this was orchestrated by the Kanu machinery, which was then very powerful. I had myself just been released from my third detention at that time. Me and Kenneth Matiba had been friends for a long time. We used to manage soccer together in the early 70s. So Matiba then came to look for me in my office. And he told me that the way things are going, these people are likely to detain us. So at this stage, the only person who can save us is Jaramogi, if he can speak. And I want you to link us with Jaramogi, which I dutifully did, and I made arrangement for the meeting between Matiba and Jaramogi. Matiba came, and then he explained to Jaramogi that you were like a cock that crew too early, when most of Kenyans were deep asleep. But now Kenyans are awake, and they are ready for what you had wanted. And we want you to be there and lead us, and we will be supporting you to go and challenge this government. Jaramogi asked him to bring his friend, Charles Rubia. So they came the following day with Rubia. And Jaramogi was with Oneko and Lukobok. They talked, and eventually they agreed that we would form a movement going forward to pressure for the formation of, for the repeal of Section 2A. After that meeting, that night, a contingent of, I think it was security officers, attacked Matiba's home in Riara. Matiba had gone back to Diani, where he had been staying, and they injured his wife at night. So in the morning, we were told that Mrs. Matiba was in Nairobi Hospital, ICU. We were planning to go and see her when Matiba called us and said, wait for me to come so that I can receive you at the hospital, which we did. And then we went to the hospital to see Edith Matiba. Jaramogi. After that, Jaramogi addressed a press conference. That was the end of it. That day we agreed with Matiba that we would meet at his residence the following day. The following day, I went to Matiba's home in Riara, and it was just me and him, the two of us, when we talked about how to organize the people to come to Kamkinji on the 7th of July. We agreed that Matiba would use his contacts in the Matatu movement to mobilize, to transport people. And I would use my soccer connection, the Gor Mahia, and also reach out to AFC to bring the people to Kamkinji. I went to Kisumu, and then when I came back, of course, time was moving. We were now nearing the July. So we were together. Matiba had the lawyers. Paul Miti was his lawyer, and Muhammad Ibrahim. My lawyer was Gibson Kamau Korea. So one day when I went to my office in the morning at Ajib House at 8 o'clock in the morning, I found police officers just standing there near the lifts. I went into the office, and then after a while I was told the police officers wanted to see me. They came and told me that they are not going to harm me. They have been sent there. Their only instructions were to ensure that Matiba and Rubia do not come to the office to see me. And that I was also not allowed to go and see them because there are officers also in their offices, including Muites and Kamau Couriers. I told them that I don't mind Matiba, Rubia, and Muiti, but Kamau Kuria was my lawyer, the lawyer of the company for which I was working. And if I cannot see my lawyer, I cannot do business. So after calling, I was told that I could see my lawyer. I went to my lawyer and I found officers there. And but I managed to see him. I came back, but then the following day, on the 2nd of May, we had information that Rubia and Matiba had been arrested. After that, I made a statement saying that the meeting, the Saba Saba meeting would go on. The same. Then pressure was mounting. Now on the 4th of May, officers came to my office. And this is July, sorry. On the Rubia and Matiba were arrested on the 2nd of July. And me, I was now arrested on the 4th of July. That day they arrested Gitumu Manyora, they arrested John Khaminwa, Paul Mwite managed to hide. Great Murungi was in Addis Ababa for a conference and moved from there to the US. Gibson Kamau Korea moved to the US Embassy here into hiding. And from there he was taken to the US into exile. Then now I was of course in the detention in Kamkinji, but in a different block from where Matiba was, and Rubia. Then we were held now in the detention, but the people decided to move on without us. And on Saba Saba Day, 7th of July, 1990, the people moved towards Kamkinji. There was, of course, a lot of force used by the police, shooting the unarmed civilians. and over 20 people were shot and killed. Quite a number were maimed. Of course, in detention, you would just get whispers of what was happening. But that basically was the Saba Saba day. How it was. There have been stories being told about the other event. You can see some pictures which are in the press, like today. Some of the people on the back of the truck, Shikuku and Orengo. That picture was on 16th of November 1991. That is not Saba Saba. Saba Saba was 7th of July 1990. You see, and it is what actually gave rise eventually to Ford. So when we were released in 1991, then by that time we found when our people who had remained behind had tried to form the National Democratic Party and had been denied registration. And after that, they went to court. And when they went to court, they were not, the court, of course, could not change anything because they said that the Constitution tied their hands. And it was after that we then decided that we form a pressure group. And this pressure group, this time we sat down, we were 5 of us. This is Paul Mwite, James Orengo, Anyang Nyong'o, Juhager, and myself. We were the ones who decided to form the Ford. But we decided that we should not come out openly ourselves because we would just be taken to detention. We decided to bring Moise Pierce, whom we argued probably he would fear to detain easily. That's how we brought in Jaramogi, we brought in Martin Shikuku, Masinde Muliro, George Nthenge, Ahmed Bamaris, and Philip Gachoka. And we decided to form a pressure group called Forum for Restoration of Democracy. And that, the movement, that now marshaled people. And when we say that we are going to go to Kamkinji again, then there was again the same pressure. And that's why I was advised that if I did not leave the country, they would harm me physically. That's the reason why I was led into exile in Norway. But we had at that time announced that we were going to go to Kamkinji. And on that day on 16th of November, our people marched into Kamkinji. And that is actually what broke the camel's back. And now, eventually, the Kanu regime crumbled and agreed to repeal Section 2A to allow for formation of other political parties. Yes.
And so, from
I would say that we've gained substantially because, as you know, we not only achieved the formation of other political parties. In the process, we managed to push for a new constitution. And we had a very extensive debate on the new constitution at Bomas of Kenya, which eventually ended up with the current new constitution, which I think is one of the most democratic constitutions in the world. Secondly, there's also been freedom of expression. The media is generally now much freer than it was at that time. But we have not achieved everything that we want. You can see, for example, violations of human rights still abound here. You've seen police being able to shoot people, shoot to kill. We have not carried out reforms which should have gone with the new constitution. As you know, I've been telling people that the police we have here is a force that was created by the colonialists, and it was aimed at ruling the natives. It was not a police that was a servant of the people. It was a force, and therefore the attitude of the police was very much anti-people. So you needed a complete retraining of the police force to make them more civil in their approach to dealing with the people, which is what they did in Tanzania. And that's why the police in Tanzania are much more respectful to wananchi than they are in our country here today. And we have also seen, because the economy has not performed as we would have expected, and therefore the many of our people are still deprived, are still suffering 60 years since independence. So there have been gains and there have been losses. You see, Saba Saba actually was a very noble idea. Saba Saba was meant to bring the people together for a common cause. And this cause was change. And we decided that we would go to Kamkinji grounds, which is historical grounds. This is where the last Kenya African Union meeting was held in 1952, before the declaration of the state of emergency. And that's again where, when they allowed for formation of political parties, again the first rally of KANU was held in Kamkinji. So Kamkinji, that's also why eventually when they lifted Section 2A and allowed for formation of political parties, the first party to be registered as the Forum for Restoration of Democracy, the first rally was held at Kamkinji. So we say that the Kamkinji has got a historical meaning, and that's why we wanted to go there. So what we're saying is that if you want to remember Saba Saba, then we go to Kamkinji. I always go to Kamkinji, even quietly, but I always go there on Saba Saba Day to just go and remember the people who lost their lives there. So my idea would be we go to Kamkinji tomorrow, because if you're talking about protesting, you are protesting, where is this protest going to start and where is it going to? My view would be the road should lead to Kamkinji. And then in Kamkinji, people meet there and pass a resolution. This is what we want, the Kenya we want. To me, that would be the best way to remember people who have died fighting for the right of the people of Kenya.